Hi there, I'm John Spade. This is The Egg on Monday, September the 20th, 2010. Initially, I wasn't going to do an egg today. I've got quite a few other things going on, and I wasn't sure I had enough content or material to do anything remotely interesting. But as the day went on and I got some of my meetings out of the way, and Calgary right now, the weather for the last 2 weeks has been so completely dismal. We're at 4 degrees. It's overcast. It's gray. It's raining on and off. And it's just, who wants to go outside in this? And of course, when I'm, idle and I have time on my hands, that's usually when I get into trouble. Doing a lot of reading. A couple of things I'm going to touch on today. One of them is, of course, getting back to, and I, there's common themes in a lot of my eggs lately, and it all has to do with the world and politics and terrorists. There's bad people in the world. They like to do really extreme things to get their point across, which if it means strapping on a bomb vest and walking into a crowded market and blowing themselves to kingdom come and everyone in their vicinity, that's what they're going to do. What got me thinking about this today was France now believes that a terrorist attack is imminent. And this is based on information, intel that they collected, very similar to the way the Americans do it. Now, if you remember in the news last week, the Senate voted in favor of a complete ban on the wearing of full Islamic veils. Their feeling is, for better or worse, it's their country. They can govern it the way they want. But their feeling is that people that cover their faces have something to hide. Now, granted, if you're robbing a bank or you're an outlaw biker or one of those things and you've got a cover on your face, I'm thinking there might be some legitimacy to that claim. However, if you're doing it for religious conviction, I think it's different grounds. Now, granted, there are probably people out in the world that could see it as an opportunity to do something grievous to another person by wearing the veil to protect their identity. To date, I haven't heard of it happening, but it could happen. And maybe this is a good reason for outlawing it. I don't know. Fear and ignorance, though, to me seems to be a driving force for a lot of people in the world today. I see it, years ago here in Canada, RCMP, there was a big debate about whether Native Americans could wear, could have long hair because it's part of their culture and their background, and whether or not East Indian people could wear turbans because it's part of their religious makeup. Well, I think logical and being the way we are as Canadians and accepting, we're a big melting pot. There's so many cultures that share this land that we were smart enough to say, you know what? There is room to move. There is room for acceptance. There is room for growth because it's part of who we are as Canadians. Now, who am I to say that France is wrong? It's their country. And if their elected Senate duly got together and said, you know what? We don't want to see anyone in our country wearing the full veil. So if you're that person, go back where you came from. I guess it's their right. It just seems very odd in this day and time that we let fear sort of dictate how we live and how we exist on this planet. So France is in a high state of alert right now. They really believe that there's going to be a terrorist attack. They really believe that there are suicide bomb plots taking place as we speak, and at any day they could get attacked. Because there are right-wing extremists. We've seen it. We've seen terrorist attacks all around the world from factions of people that want their beliefs to be the belief of the world, and they will do whatever they can to get that point across. I can't reiterate it enough, and you know what? I have a pretty smart viewership to this point. I know I do because of the feedback I get, so I'm not telling you guys anything you don't already know. It's a small percentage that make up these wingbats that are out there that would do these things. They're such a small percentage. And unfortunately, because of the way we rationalize things, we want to believe that anybody that wears a full veil across their face is potentially your enemy. And it's ridiculous. Am I wrong here? I don't know. So that's the first thing I got out of the way. I've been touching on corruption in politics, and I know some people are kind of going, you know what, John? There's no boogeyman out there. It is what it is. Everything's above board. There's nothing to see here. You know what? We have a due process. There's an election, and we live in a democracy. It's a free world. So stop theorizing that, things are happening that aren't actually happening. Now, if you have that sense about the world, kudos to you. I wish I was that person. I wish I could just sort of, put on the rose-colored glasses and walk around and pretend like everything's peachy. But it isn't. Our local newspaper here in Calgary, yesterday, in their infinite wisdom, and to tell me there's no ulterior motive and that there aren't very strong, powerful people pulling some strings in the background, I could be wrong. I believe in Santa Claus. Don't you? Okay. I'm being a bit of a jackass right now, but it's to make point. Listen, when a newspaper, which is considered one of the credible newspapers in Calgary, comes out with a story basically saying, and during our, we've got a mayoral race, the nominations are happening today. The day before, they run a story that basically says, guess what, guys? If you're running for mayor, hate to tell you this, you don't have a hope in hell, because we've done a poll and we've already decided that this is the person that's going to win the mayoral race. His name is Rick McIver, and the rest of you might as well pack your bags and go home. Voting doesn't take place for another month. So it's one of those things that's so completely ludicrous to me. They are putting this out there as news. And unfortunately, there is a large demographic of our society that take everything at face value. If they open up the paper and there's a story that says pigs are flying, they're flying above the sky. Unfortunately, there is a demographic that's going to say, well, I'm going to be looking out my window because I want to see this. I'm pretty sure that pigs can fly. The paper says they can. God damn it, they can. It's a little bit of a ridiculous example, I guess, to make my point. But here's the thing. We're a month away from the election. The papers come out with some pretty strong and damning evidence that if all the other candidates that are running are going to continue on, it's going to be in vain. So, of course, this morning, the news is running and, a half dozen more candidates. I mean, we've had a lot of candidates this year, probably more than ever, all dropped out. And some ones that potentially had legitimate chances, maybe, had strong campaigns, but they're feeling at this point it's better to drop off the face of the earth than to spend any more money or waste anybody else's time in something that's already considered a foregone conclusion. And this is because the media is reporting this. It's hard for me to believe there aren't ulterior motives here. It's hard to believe that there isn't some kind of control in the background that we can't see. Yes, it's the stuff of conspiracy, but how dare the media in what's apparently a free process, it's called democracy, and they can come out so brazenly right out of the gates. And I mean, almost from the day that this whole process started, the media has been saying, hey, the front runner is going to be Rick McIver. And there might be a couple other people that can come in place, but it's been carefully orchestrated. And it's happening in print, it's happening in radio, and it's happening via the news. Now, I've got some friends out there that get a little pissy with me because I have friends in media who call bullshit. They go, what, you think we're all on the take? No, I don't think you're all on the take, but I think that the control of information and what's allowed to be shown and how it's delivered is definitely controlled. And there's a few people that make those decisions. And let's not fool ourselves about who owns 80% of the media in this country. It's a handful of people. It really is. I can't make this up. The newspapers, the cable providers, television stations, you look at the connection on the corporate level of who owns and who controls, it's a very select few people. And they have mandates and they have needs. And hey, you know, I'm sorry, if you're not from Calgary, some of this stuff is probably not going to mean anything to you, but one of the guys that dropped out, Elnur Kassan, tried to sell his, basically, his vote. You know, he considered himself a front runner in the race. He's runner-up last year, or not last year, but the last election. So he's coming forward and saying, hey, listen, you know what? I'm pulling out, but if you appoint me to a position as city manager, I'll give you my endorsement. I'll put all my resources behind you. This is very above board, not really trying to hide it because he doesn't see any wrongdoing here. Well, guess what? It goes on. It's all about the favor system. That's part of politics. So where I'm at today is I'm going, well, why the hell should I even bother going out and voting? If Rick McIver is going to be the mayor of Calgary, why waste any more money right now? Why don't we just put the fucking crown on his head and have it done with? Because he's not going to act in our best interest anyways. Most people know that. Most people know that the mayor on his way out wasn't acting in our best interest. It's common knowledge amongst anybody that's on the inside. This isn't conjecture. This is the way business is done in politics in North America. I'm going to finish on this note. It's all going to change. I promise you in the next 10 years, with the advent of social media, and we're just scraping the surface right now. People are going, oh, you know, Facebook and Twitter, this shit's all done. It's not going to go on much longer. Hate to tell you this. This is going to become the vehicle to express ideas, to get points across, and to build political futures. We're already seeing it. The mayoral candidates are on using social media. They haven't really figured out how to use it correctly yet. I don't think we're quite at that point where it's dialed in and it's in a science, but we're getting close. In 10 more years, the transparency is going to be off the charts. And I'm telling you, if we're going to be a democracy moving forward, social media, the internet is going to help guide and direct it. And backroom deals are going to become increasingly difficult. If you're dishonest, if you're on the take, if you can be bought, your chances of being a leader in this country in the next decade, well, guess what? You might need to find another form of work, because I really believe, and some people are going to say, well, John, you're an idiot because that kind of idealism doesn't have any place in Canadian politics or any politics anywhere in the world. I'm telling you different. We're getting very close. And I think there's going to come a time where the people are going to decide by the integrity of the person that wants to represent us in a democracy. And it's all going to take place and play out on the big world of the World Wide Web. That's my thought for today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to see you guys on the download next week, maybe tomorrow. Who knows? Bye-bye.